Yo, what is going on, everybody? I wanted to come back and do something different today. I wanted to try doing a review for a game I just recently played, Final Fantasy 16, as we can see by the title. And I wanted to kind of give my take and my opinion on some things that either could have been done better or were done perfectly. And I also wanted to say that this will include a large amount of spoilers for the end of the game and other parts of that. So maybe don't watch if you haven't finished it. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Okay, first I'm going to start off with some of the positives and negatives of the game that I felt were personally either really good or they could have done a little bit better on. So let's start off with the best thing to me, being the combat system. It was great. It was perfectly done. As something that's completely new to the Final Fantasy aspect, it kind of was really nice. It brought in a feel of the magic with the combat we had in 15. The magic was really well done. You felt like you were constantly having an effect in a fight. You weren't just swinging a sword 24/7, and it brought a fresh, constant aspect of feeling like you were doing something. Next, I want to move into the world building, character building, and overall character development. Those were also really solid. I felt like from the demo, we can see Clive go from being just this shield. Towards the end of the game, we get this guy that really wants to help people, and he feels like he can make the change from the guy we saw before, where he's just talking to Sid about, I guess, just not dying until he gets to the icon. And it really makes you feel the characters, like you are attached to them or you are them, and that's something that a lot of games can't pull off, especially when the mother died. Never felt better in my life. And the last thing I really want to mention is the soundtrack. It was brilliant. It literally made every single fight feel amazing. Everything became instantly more cool, especially with all the icon fights based off the music that was playing. Okay, so now it's time to move to the negatives. I'm going to start off by saying Ultima is the worst character I've ever seen, and I'll dive in later to explain why I think so, but for now I'll just say that. Them killing Clive at the end of the game was just pointless. It was just purely to farm emotions and make you feel like the game was darker than it was supposed to be or needed to be. The after credit scene with the two little kids running around with the dog was pointless, other than to try to make the conjecture of them being like Clive and Joshua, and to add the name Joshua into the book only really hinted at something that I'll get to later. The emotional attachment you build with the characters eventually gets released because you see them die in some way, either you killing them or them killing themselves or something like that. Also, I'm just gonna say, I don't know how Joshua survived being mauled to death by Ifrit, but whatever he did, he needs to teach to some of the medical professionals in the real world. And the last and final negative I have on my list is that there was just way too many, like way too many side quests to try and add story to the game, which could have been done in many different ways with, I guess, just cutscenes, but they already had plenty of those, so I guess that wouldn't work. I don't know how they could do that, actually. Anyway, sidetracked. Let's move on to my final thoughts, opinions, and other more lengthier information. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my final rating, and I'm gonna place it at a 8.5 out of 10 to me. It has its downs, but overall it's really well made. The combat is something I've never experienced in a game before in a good way. And yeah, it just keeps it feeling fresh constantly throughout, even the boring parts from cutscenes. In my opinion, it feels very fluid, and it feels how every Final Fantasy from here on out should play, with the interchanging of the magic to the swords and feeling like you have control over the fights instead of feeling like it's just sword play. And it kind of gets repetitive how it did in Final Fantasy 15 for a lot of people. I personally enjoyed it, but this was a lot better to me simply because the combat had another aspect to it other than just the swords. Everybody who played the demo can agree with me here that you very simply and easily get attached to the story and the characters just because of how good the beginning writing is. It makes you feel something towards the mother or towards Joshua being your little brother at the time. it makes you feel something towards your own father who wants you to actually be something unlike your mother, and it is very, very well written. Seeing the mother die and the sort of kind of end kind of got on my nerves because there's no way she did all of that talking to literally everybody and then kills herself. Like, I just refuse to believe that's a thing. And it happens consistently. You get attached to these characters in either good or bad ways, and they find ways to just every single time throw them away, and they just kind of disappear, and you never see the characters feel anything about them or anything like that. They just kind of disappear. Also, this guy on the screen, we never see him after this point. He just disappears. The game tells you he's alive from the map table, but you never see him again. They show us continuously Sir Wade, but we never see Tyler ever again. My biggest issue with this game was that after claiming Bahamut, you just kind of feel bored, or maybe it was just me, but I just kind of feel bored. Like, it was too much. The characters disappear. You no longer have any attachment to almost anyone because they're all gone, and you just feel like, what is the point of even playing anymore? The idea of just fighting a god kind of felt like it was going too far, and the story progressed past a point where it could have just stopped and been over with. It just kind of kept going and made the story feel way longer than it had to be. There was a point where it literally could have just stopped, and actually I'll go into detail on that in just a second. But I wanted to say that maybe this story felt like it was so long because I completed every side quest, but 60 hours felt way too long when the last 10 hours was spent on a final boss that I don't think should have been the final boss. Okay, so the timeline, in my point of view, should have went from the second we beat Bahamut. We are now on a journey to destroy the last Mother Crystal and fight Odin, and that is it. The story ends there. Clive breaks the Mother Crystal. The Blight is stopped. The end. There is no need for him to wash up on the beach and possibly be dead. I say possibly because there's a theory that he survives and he authors the book at the end under Joshua's name, but since it's unconfirmed, I won't really use it. He wouldn't need to be turned to stone on the beach, and he could pursue a happy life due to not being turned by the crystal's curse and Ultima's power. He can become a human being instead of being just a casualty to attempt to make a darker story than it was needed. I feel like with the amount of death that occurred in the story, the ending should have been something lighter where we can see Clive become a person in this world that he attempted to build, instead of him being somebody that dies and doesn't even get to see his own work become a thing. Also, we only see the characters of the hideout like one more time, with everybody just like crowding the one chick's baby, I forget what her name is, which doesn't actually tell us anything about what they went through after he died, or even what the world was like after that, because we see the kids, they have a nice, decent life, but we don't know how it got to that point. We just get the skip between, as they did plenty of times with just skip to skip to skip, instead of giving us the in-between. And I just feel like the time they invested into Ultima could have been spent other places fleshing out the story better, and it just overall felt rushed to me towards the end. Finally, I wanted to change the subject to how Joshua was alive, because he literally, we saw, got ripped in half. I don't know where they pulled that out from, but they came up with some magic, because he should have been dead in every possible universe. But that's about all I've got. So I'm going to end it there with saying I really did enjoy this game, even though I have said a lot about things I dislike. They were all pretty much minor things that wouldn't do much to really affect the outcome of the game. They were more just like things that I wish changed or were a little bit different. But honestly, their direction wasn't terrible. It just got a little repetitive towards the end, with fighting a god being something that happens in so many different games. It kind of just felt like they just threw it in there because that's what worked for other companies. And as I'm sure this is aware to everybody watching it, this is just my opinion, so it's not 100% factual. It's not something that very many other people are going to come up with and think. And I just felt the need to share it after playing it, because there was a lot that I felt could have been done a little bit different, and I just wanted to, I guess, get this out there. So if you enjoyed this video, it would do me a huge favor if you could like, subscribe, and keep up with what I post. I would love to do more of these for other games I play either in the future or have played if they are wanted. Give me your favorite and least favorite part about this game in the comment section. And as always, thank you for coming out and supporting, and I'll see you in the next video.